Silence is often misunderstood in the modern world. People see it as absence, as emptiness, as a lack of something. But in truth, silence is full. It is dense with presence, with awareness, with power. It is the space where everything is heard more clearly. Not the noise outside, but the truth inside. We live in a time where words spill everywhere, where the loudest voice is often mistaken for the most important one. Social media rewards constant talking, endless sharing, and unfiltered opinions. In this kind of environment, silence can feel like a rebellion. It becomes a refusal to join the noise, a deliberate act of conserving energy for what truly matters. When you choose silence, you are no longer trying to keep up with the chaos. You are stepping out of the storm. Silence is not weakness. Weakness is when you cannot hold yourself back from reacting. Weakness is when your mind is so restless that you must fill every moment with sound, with words, with noise, just to distract yourself from what you are feeling. Strength, on the other hand, is the ability to hold space within yourself without the need to rush, explain, or defend. Strength is the ability to allow misunderstandings to pass without forcing people to see your perspective. Strength is the ability to let the world speak while you listen, not to respond immediately, but to understand fully. In silence, you begin to notice how much energy is wasted in meaningless exchanges. You see how often people speak just to be heard, not to share anything of value. You realize that much of what is said is not truth but habit, not clarity but noise. When you step back from that, your own thoughts become sharper. Your mind stops scattering in 1,000 directions. Silence gathers your focus into one point, and from that point, clarity begins to grow. Silence is also a mirror. When you stop speaking, when you stop reacting, you are forced to meet yourself without distractions. Every emotion you have been avoiding comes to the surface. This can be uncomfortable, and that is exactly why it is powerful. To sit in silence is to train yourself to face your inner world without escaping. It is to become familiar with your fears, your doubts, your insecurities until they no longer control you. It is in this stillness that self-mastery begins. People often believe that strength means domination over others. But true strength is mastery over oneself. And silence is one of the greatest teachers in this mastery. It teaches patience, the patience to wait for the right moment rather than forcing the wrong one. It teaches humility, the understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, not every opinion needs your voice. It teaches discipline, the ability to remain unmoved when provoked, to respond only when it serves your purpose. Silence also protects your energy. Every conversation you enter, every debate you engage in is an exchange of energy. When you stay silent, you choose where your energy flows. You no longer give pieces of yourself to arguments that change nothing. You no longer waste your mental strength on people who are not ready to listen. You become intentional with your presence, and in doing so, you preserve your inner resources for what truly matters. There is also a different kind of silence. The silence between your thoughts. This is the silence you find in meditation, in deep breathing, in being fully present. This silence is the purest form of strength because it connects you to a state beyond reaction. It is the space where your mind stops grasping at past and future and rests in the now. From here, your actions are no longer reactive but deliberate, no longer scattered but precise. When you walk into a room carrying silence, you carry weight. Not the heavy weight of stress, but the steady weight of presence. People can feel it. The calm confidence that comes from someone who does not need to prove anything. In a world addicted to noise, such presence is rare and it is magnetic. People are drawn to it because it signals control, stability, and depth. Silence can also disarm. Words often escalate tension, but silence can dissolve it. When faced with anger, a calm, quiet presence removes fuel from the fire. When faced with chaos, your stillness becomes an anchor. This is not the silence of passivity, but the silence of intention, the silence that chooses not to contribute to destruction, but to stand as a stable point amidst it. In silence, you learn to hear not just what people say, but what they mean. You begin to notice the pauses between their words, the tone behind their voice, the truth hidden beneath their surface. This deeper listening is a form of strength because it allows you to see more than others reveal, to understand more than they can express. The greatest warriors, thinkers, and leaders have understood the value of silence. They knew that silence sharpens the mind, deepens perception, and keeps emotion from clouding judgment. They knew that once words are spoken, They cannot be taken back. But silence gives you the space to choose the right words, or to choose none at all. Silence is not emptiness. It is the fullness of everything that does not need to be said. It is the space where understanding grows, where power collects, where strength is built quietly, away from the eyes of the world. It is the ground from which the most powerful actions arise. If you want, I can now expand self-alignment before influence in the same deep, flowing style so it matches this one perfectly for a longer full speech set. Would you like me to do that next? There is a common mistake many people make. They try to change the world before they have changed themselves. They try to influence others without first mastering their own mind, emotions, and behavior. They try to lead when they have not yet learned how to lead themselves. The result is frustration, resistance, and an endless cycle of effort without results. True influence begins within. Before you can shift the direction of others, you must first align the direction of your own life. Self-alignment is the process of bringing your thoughts, emotions, and actions into harmony. It means living in a way where what you think, what you feel, and what you do are not in conflict. Most people carry an invisible tension because these three elements are pulling in different directions. They think one thing but feel another. They say one thing but act differently. This inner contradiction drains their energy and weakens their presence. You cannot expect to influence others from a place of internal chaos. Alignment begins with clarity. You must first understand what you stand for, what you value, and what your true purpose is. Without this clarity, your actions will be inconsistent. One day you will move in one direction, the next day in another, because you have no anchor. Clarity acts as that anchor. It gives you a reference point for every decision, every word, every movement. When you know your principles, your actions begin to align naturally with them, and your life gains coherence. Once clarity is established, self-observation becomes essential. You must become aware of how your thoughts are shaping your reality. Many people try to inspire or lead others while their own minds are full of doubt, resentment, or fear. This energy leaks out even if they try to hide it. Influence is not only about what you say, but about what you radiate, if you are not aligned internally. People will sense it, and your words will lose their weight. Self-alignment requires emotional discipline. This does not mean suppressing emotions, but understanding and regulating them. If you are easily thrown off by frustration, anger, or insecurity, your influence will be inconsistent. One day people will see you calm and collected. The next day they will see you shaken and reactive. True influence is built on stability. When you can remain centered in both success and failure, in both praise and criticism, people will begin to trust your presence. Your actions must also reflect your inner values. Many try to influence through words alone, but words without corresponding action create distrust. When there is alignment between what you say and what you do, your influence deepens without effort. People are more moved by example than by instruction. Living your values consistently speaks louder than any motivational speech. Self-alignment is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of adjustment. As life changes, new challenges arise, and you will notice areas where your actions no longer reflect your deeper truth. In those moments, you must pause, return to silence, and realign. Without this constant calibration, it is easy to drift away from your center. Influence that comes from alignment is natural, not forced. You do not need to push or persuade aggressively. Your presence itself becomes convincing because it carries a certain weight. People sense when someone is living in integrity, when there is no inner conflict between their mind, heart, and behavior. This authenticity draws others naturally, without the need for manipulation or excessive effort. Self-alignment also gives you resilience. When your inner compass is steady, you are less swayed by trends, opinions, or external pressures. You stop needing approval for validation, and this independence makes your influence even stronger. Those who chase approval are easily controlled. Those who are aligned with themselves cannot be shaken by rejection or criticism. Before you can lift others, you must be grounded yourself. Before you can guide someone out of confusion, you must have walked the path of clarity. Before you can inspire discipline, you must have disciplined your own mind and body. This is not about perfection, but about honesty, living in a way where you demand of yourself what you hope to inspire in others. Many leaders fail because they skip this step. They rush to act outwardly without first working inwardly. They try to control situations instead of controlling their own reactions. They try to fix others without addressing their own contradictions. The result is that their influence is temporary, easily broken when circumstances change. But when your influence is built on alignment, it endures because it is rooted in something deeper than changing conditions. In every field, whether in leadership, teaching, art, or relationships, the most impactful people are those whose lives are a reflection of their message. They do not just speak about patience, they live it. They do not just teach discipline, they embody it. They do not just talk about courage, they have faced fear themselves. This embodiment is only possible when self-alignment comes before influence. The strength of your impact is directly connected to the depth of your self-mastery. The more aligned you are, the less effort you need to influence others. Your presence communicates what words cannot, your silence carries meaning, your actions speak with precision. In such a state, you no longer chase influence, it comes to you. People look to you not because you demand it, but because they trust the steadiness of your being. Self-alignment is a discipline of the inner world, a constant refinement of thought, emotion, and action into a unified force. It is the foundation on which true influence is built, the root from which all meaningful change grows. Without it, your influence is fragile. With it, your influence becomes unshakable. Focus is more than concentration. It is the deliberate direction of your life force. Every thought you entertain, every task you commit to, every conversation you engage in, all of these require energy. This energy is not infinite. It must be managed wisely, or it will be scattered across too many places, leaving you exhausted but with little to show for your effort. Energy flows where attention goes. The problem is that most people allow their attention to be hijacked. Notifications, constant demands, endless opinions, and the noise of the world pull the mind in 1,000 directions. With every distraction, a small amount of energy leaks away. The mind becomes fragmented, and so does life. You cannot expect to build anything meaningful when your energy is constantly divided. Focus is the art of deciding where your energy belongs and guarding it fiercely. This is not simply about working harder, it is about working with precision. A laser is powerful because its energy is concentrated. In the same way, your personal power grows when you stop scattering your efforts and instead channel them into a few deliberate directions. The first step in managing your energy through focus is awareness. You must become conscious of where your time and attention go each day. Much of your energy is not taken by major events but by small repeated distractions. A conversation that adds no value, a habit of checking your phone without reason, a thought pattern of worry or regret. These small leaks drain you silently. When you identify them, you begin to reclaim the energy that was being wasted. Once you are aware of the leaks, the next step is to choose your priorities. If everything is important, nothing truly is. Energy management requires you to decide what matters most in your current season of life. This clarity allows you to direct your attention toward the few things that have the greatest impact. Without such prioritization, you will find yourself working hard but feeling empty because your effort is spread too thin to create results. Focus also demands the discipline of saying no. Every request, every invitation, every opportunity comes with a cost. The cost is your time and energy. If you say yes to everything, you are saying no to the things that matter most. Many people fear disappointing others, but in trying to please everyone, they betray their own path. To manage energy effectively, you must be willing to let go of what does not align with your focus, even if it means facing discomfort in the moment. The quality of your focus is also shaped by the quality of your internal state. A restless, distracted mind cannot hold attention for long. This is why practices like meditation, mindful breathing, or deliberate stillness are powerful tools for energy management. They train your mind to resist being pulled away by every passing thought. The calmer your mind, the more precise your focus becomes, and the less energy is wasted on unnecessary mental noise. It is important to remember that focus is not about doing more. It is about doing less with greater intensity. A single hour of deep, uninterrupted work often accomplishes more than a full day of scattered effort. This depth requires boundaries. You must create spaces and moments where your focus is fully on the task at hand. No interruptions, no divided attention. Over time, this depth compounds into mastery. Managing energy through focus also means aligning your attention with your natural rhythms. Your energy is not constant throughout the day. There are hours when your mind is sharp and creative, and hours when it is slower and more reflective. By aligning your most important work with your peak energy periods, you maximize the return on your focus. Many people work against their own rhythms, forcing themselves into productivity at times when their energy is naturally low. This leads to wasted effort and frustration. Another key element is emotional focus. It is not just your tasks that require energy, your emotions do as well. Holding on to resentment, replaying conflicts, or engaging in unnecessary drama drains mental and emotional reserves that could be invested into your goals. Emotional discipline, the ability to release what does not serve you, is one of the most effective ways to preserve energy. The people you allow into your life also influence your energy management. Some connections inspire and strengthen you, while others leave you depleted. Just as you guard your focus from distractions, you must guard it from environments and relationships that constantly take without giving. Energy is contagious. If you spend too much time around those who scatter theirs, you will begin to scatter yours as well. Focus is not about intensity alone, it is also about rest. Without periods of intentional recovery, your energy becomes strained and your focus weakens. Rest is not a waste of time, it is the recharge that makes deep work possible. Sleep, solitude, nature, and moments of joy are not luxuries. They are fuel for sustained focus. Managing your energy means knowing when to push forward and when to pull back. Over time, the consistent practice of focus reshapes your life. You begin to see progress where before there was only motion. Your mind becomes less reactive, your actions more deliberate. You stop chasing every distraction because you know the cost it carries. Your energy no longer leaks into 100 shallow pursuits. Instead, it flows into a few deep ones, and those are the ones that move you forward. When focus becomes a way of life, energy is no longer wasted on what is meaningless. Every action, every word, every thought becomes an investment towards something you have chosen consciously. This is how ordinary effort becomes extraordinary results, not through endless business, but through the disciplined management of your most precious resource, your energy. Noise surrounds us everywhere. It is in the conversations of strangers, in the endless flow of digital content, in the constant stream of opinions, judgments, and demands. Noise is not just sound. It is anything that disrupts your clarity. It can be the criticism of others, the comparisons you make, the pressure to meet expectations that are not your own. It can be the inner chatter of your own restless thoughts, replaying the past or projecting fear into the future. To detach from noise is to step back from all of this and reclaim the stillness that allows you to see life as it truly is. Noise thrives on reaction. It wants your attention, your energy, your participation. The more you react to it, the more it grows. This is why detachment is such a powerful practice. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean shutting yourself away from the world or ignoring responsibility. True detachment is the ability to be fully aware of what is happening around you without being pulled under by it. It is the skill of listening without absorbing, of observing without being consumed. In modern life, the volume of noise is higher than it has ever been. Technology has made it possible for voices, images, and messages to reach you at every moment of the day. Each one demands something from you: a response, a reaction, a click, an opinion. Without detachment, you are at the mercy of this constant pull. Your attention is scattered, and your mind becomes a mirror of the chaos around you. Detachment begins with the recognition that not everything that comes into your awareness deserves your response. Most of what you hear, read, or see is not directly relevant to your path. Yet the human mind has been conditioned to seek stimulation, to chase the next piece of information, to engage in endless mental consumption. Breaking this habit requires conscious choice. The choice to filter what enters your mental space. This may mean limiting time spent on certain platforms, declining conversations that lead nowhere, or choosing environments that nourish rather than drain you. The deeper challenge is detaching from the noise of other people's opinions. Everyone has something to say about how you should live, what choices you should make, and who you should be. If you are too attached to these voices, you lose sight of your own. Detachment here means holding your center even when surrounded by differing perspectives. You can listen without being swayed, consider without being consumed. You no longer measure your worth by external validation or criticism. The most persistent noise, however, is the one inside your own mind. Thoughts can be louder than anything outside. They replay old mistakes, project fears into the future, and invent problems that do not exist. Detachment from this inner noise does not come from trying to stop the thoughts. That only creates more tension. It comes from watching them without identification. A thought is only a thought. It has no power until you believe it. When you observe thoughts without grasping at them, they pass like clouds across the sky, leaving your awareness clear again. Detachment also gives you the ability to see life in its true scale. Noise distorts importance. It makes the small feel urgent and the urgent feel overwhelming. It can trick you into believing that every comment, every headline, every opinion is a matter of personal consequence. Stepping back allows you to regain perspective. From a distance, you see which matters are truly worth your energy and which are simply distractions dressed in urgency. There is a quiet strength in refusing to engage with unnecessary noise. People may misinterpret your calm for passivity, your silence for weakness. But detachment is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the discipline of not letting your emotions be dictated by the chaos around you. It is the choice to act from clarity rather than impulse. Those who are reactive to every noise are like leaves blown in the wind, directionless and restless. Those who are detached are like the tree that stands firm no matter how loud the wind becomes. Detachment from noise also opens space for creativity. Noise fills the mind with repetition, with the same patterns and opinions circulating endlessly. In stillness, new insights have room to appear. Inspiration comes when the mind is not constantly occupied by external chatter. Many breakthroughs happen not in the middle of activity, but in the quiet moments when you are disconnected from the noise and connected to your own inner voice. The practice of detachment can be supported by intentional withdrawal from stimulation. This might mean taking moments of silence throughout the day, practicing mindful breathing, or spending time in nature where the pace is slower and the mind can settle. These are not escapes from reality, they are returns to it. In these spaces, you can hear the truth of your own thoughts without interference. It is also important to remember that detachment is not a one-time achievement. Noise will always exist. The world will never stop producing more opinions, more drama, more distractions. The mind will always generate thoughts. Detachment is the ongoing practice of choosing where to place your attention moment by moment. Some days will be easier than others, but every time you choose to step back instead of being pulled in, you strengthen your ability to remain clear in the midst of noise. As detachment deepens, you begin to notice a shift in your relationships, in your work, in your sense of self. The same situations that once provoked frustration or anxiety now pass without disturbing your peace. You are no longer chasing every sound, every idea, every demand for attention. You move with greater intention, and your actions carry more weight because they are chosen, not forced. This is the freedom that comes from no longer being a servant to the noise, but instead being the one who decides what is worth hearing. The world sees results, but it rarely sees the preparation. It notices the performance, but not the countless hours of practice. It celebrates the achievement, but not the quiet persistence that built it. The invisible work is everything you do when no one is watching, the discipline, the repetition, the sacrifice, the moments of doubt you overcome in silence. It is the foundation beneath every visible success, the part of the journey that does not make it into the highlight reel. Most people underestimate the power of the invisible work because they are drawn to what is seen. They want the recognition without the process, the reward without the grind. But life does not work that way. Anything of lasting value is built in the shadows before it is revealed in the light. The hours spent refining your craft, the nights spent thinking through solutions, the small daily actions that compound over months and years. These are the bricks that form the structure of success. Invisible work is not glamorous. It does not get applause. It is often repetitive, sometimes frustrating, and almost always unrecognized. Yet it is in these hidden moments that you grow stronger. Each time you choose to show up when there is no immediate payoff, you are building resilience. Each time you commit to the process without demanding instant results, you are proving to yourself that your dedication is not dependent on outside validation. This work also tests your patience. In a world addicted to speed, invisible work demands slowness. Growth cannot be rushed. Skill cannot be faked. You may spend months or years refining something before anyone notices. There will be times when progress feels invisible even to you, when you wonder if all your effort is worth it. This is when most people quit, because they cannot see the seed growing beneath the soil. But the ones who keep going understand that the seed must remain hidden before it can break the surface. Invisible work requires faith, not blind hope, but the trust that every small effort matters, even if you cannot yet see its impact. You may write hundreds of drafts before one becomes worthy of sharing. You may train for years before your ability matches your vision. You may build habit upon habit, wondering if they will ever add up to something significant. And then, one day, what was invisible becomes undeniable. The world calls it sudden success, but you know it was years in the making. Discipline is the backbone of the invisible work. Motivation will fade. Inspiration will come and go. What carries you forward is the decision to keep working even when you do not feel like it. Invisible work is not driven by mood, it is driven by commitment. This is why it is so powerful, because it teaches you to act independently of external circumstances. It builds an inner strength that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks or changing conditions. Another truth about invisible work is that it is deeply personal. No one else will fully understand the effort you have put in. They will not know the sacrifices you have made, the temptations you have resisted, the doubts you have silenced. And they do not need to. The invisible work is not for their recognition. It is for your transformation. The changes it creates within you are often more valuable than the results it produces. You become someone who can be trusted with greater responsibility, someone who can handle pressure because you have faced it privately. Invisible work also demands consistency. Sporadic effort will not create mastery. A single burst of inspiration is not enough. The work must be repeated day after day, often in the same way, with the same attention to detail. This is what builds a solid foundation. It is like the unseen roots of a tree. They must grow deep and strong before the branches can reach high. Without these roots, the tree cannot withstand the storms. Without consistent invisible work, your success will not endure. There is also a humility in doing work that no one applauds. It keeps your focus on the process rather than the performance. When you are not working for an audience, you are free to make mistakes, to experiment, to learn without fear of judgment. You can fail privately and rise again without anyone counting your losses. This is the space where real growth happens. Away from the spotlight without the pressure to be perfect. Invisible work shapes your character. It teaches you to value substance over appearance, effort over recognition. It develops your ability to delay gratification, to endure temporary discomfort for long-term gain. It makes you patient with the process because you know that true progress is measured in years, not moments. It gives you a quiet confidence, the kind that does not need to announce itself because it is built on countless hours of unseen preparation. When the results of invisible work finally become visible, they often seem effortless to others. They see the smooth execution, the confident delivery, the refined skill, and they assume it came naturally. They do not see the early mornings, the late nights, the failures, the revisions, the discipline that made it possible. This is why comparison is dangerous. It overlooks the invisible work behind every visible success. Those who understand the value of invisible work stop chasing quick rewards. They stop seeking shortcuts because they know the process is the reward. They learn to appreciate the quiet hours, the steady grind, the moments when no one is watching. They know that each day spent in the invisible phase is a day of preparation for when the opportunity arrives. And when it does arrive, they are ready. Not because they got lucky, but because they were already prepared long before the world was paying attention. Life has its own rhythm, its own current. Seasons change without being forced. Rivers carve paths without rushing. Trees grow without constant instruction. There is an intelligence in nature that operates effortlessly, an order that unfolds whether or not we try to control it. The natural flow of life is this unseen movement, the way things progress, transform, and evolve when they are allowed to follow their true course. Many struggles in life arise from trying to resist this flow. People cling to situations that have already ended, forcing connections that no longer fit, or chasing outcomes that are not aligned with their path. This resistance creates tension. It is like swimming against the current, exhausting and unsustainable. In contrast, moving with the natural flow is not about passivity, but about alignment. It means understanding where the current is taking you and adjusting your actions to move with it rather than against it. The natural flow of life often reveals itself in cycles. Just as there are times of growth and harvest, there are also times of rest and stillness. Yet in modern life, there is pressure to remain in a constant state of productivity. People are taught to push relentlessly, to force progress even when the season calls for patience. But just as fields must lie fallow to restore their fertility, human beings also need periods of renewal. Respecting these cycles allows you to preserve your energy and return stronger when the time for action comes. Flow is also connected to trust. It is difficult to let life unfold naturally if you are constantly trying to control every detail. The need for control comes from fear. Fear that things will not go your way, fear of uncertainty, fear of loss. But the more you tighten your grip, the more resistance you create. Trusting the flow means accepting that not everything will happen according to your timeline or expectations. It means understanding that delays, changes, and detours are often part of the greater path. When you are in alignment with the natural flow, effort becomes different. You still work, you still act, but the work feels lighter. There is less strain because you are moving in harmony with the direction of life. Opportunities appear without being chased, solutions arise without being forced, and progress happens through consistency rather than pressure. This is similar to how a sailor navigates. They do not fight the wind, they adjust their sails to work with it. Listening is essential to finding the flow. Life gives signals, small whispers in your intuition, patterns that keep appearing, feelings that tell you something is right or wrong. But these signals are often drowned out by noise, by constant activity, by the mind's insistence on its own agenda. Slowing down, creating stillness, and paying attention to these subtle cues allows you to sense where the flow is leading. Without this awareness, it is easy to become stuck in paths that demand constant struggle instead of steady movement. The flow of life is not always smooth. Rivers have rapids, oceans have storms, seasons have harsh winters. Flow does not mean avoiding challenges. It means facing them as part of the journey, knowing they too have their purpose. The difficult phases often serve as preparation for the next stage. They shape resilience, clarity, and perspective. When you see challenges as part of the flow rather than interruptions, you stop wasting energy resisting them. Part of moving with the natural flow is releasing attachment to fixed outcomes. Goals are important, but clinging too tightly to a specific result can blind you to better possibilities. Sometimes the flow carries you towards something different from what you imagined, not because you failed, but because something greater was waiting. When you remain flexible, you allow life to guide you to places you could not have planned yourself. The natural flow of life also teaches the balance between action and surrender. There are moments when decisive action is required, when the opportunity is here and hesitation will cause it to pass. But there are also moments when the wisest choice is to wait, to allow events to develop without interference. Knowing when to act and when to step back is part of the art of moving with the flow. This discernment comes from experience, patience, and the willingness to learn from both movement and stillness. Connection to nature can remind you of this truth. Watching the way water moves around obstacles, the way plants grow toward the light, the way day turns to night without struggle. All of these reflect the flow. Nature does not rush, yet everything is accomplished in its time. Observing these patterns can shift your perspective, showing you that life does not require constant force to progress. In relationships, the natural flow can be felt when connections evolve without being pushed. Trust, respect, and understanding grow naturally when they are nurtured, but they cannot be forced into existence. The same applies to opportunities. They develop when conditions are right. Trying to pull them into being before the time is ready often leads to frustration or collapse. Moving with the flow does not mean avoiding responsibility or ignoring effort. It means acting with awareness, aligning your actions with timing, and trusting the process. It is about stepping into the stream of life, fully present, knowing that your role is not to control the current, but to navigate it skillfully. This is how movement becomes smoother, how progress becomes steady, and how life becomes less of a battle and more of a journey that unfolds in its own rhythm.